And then there were 16. Hey, everybody, Nick Kypreos for the Real Kyper at Noon show. Doug Maclean on standby, ready to get going here. Okay, everybody, exhale. We got through all of that. Technically, can we say that those were playoff games? Qualifiers to the playoffs? Are the real playoffs now starting? Was that really the playoffs or just kind of fake playoffs? And then the round robin, do they even count at all? Did we care about the seeding? We had Boston rated so high. Do we still feel that way? Boston's still a team to beat. Should they be considered one of the favorites now going in to the final 16? Is that what we call it now, based on 24 having a chance? We do know this for sure, that the following teams now will join the bottom losers that didn't even get into this 24-team tournament into now what is tonight going to be the conclusion of the NHL Draft Lottery show. So Pittsburgh, Edmonton, Toronto, Panthers, Preds, Wild, Jets, and Rangers, welcome aboard. You now have a chance to the Alexis Lafreniere sweepstakes. Do you like it? I don't like it. I bet Doug Maclean doesn't like it. Let's go to Doug out in Summerside, PEI. Listen, Mac, we're going to get into all of this, but the good news now, at least for today, is we have a chance to breathe. We're going to get to all the series over the course of the back half of this show and even tomorrow's show. So we will tee it all up. But before we get to the place we need to go, we got to know where we've come from. And this weekend was an absolute crazy roller coaster, Mac. And I want to start by concluding one of the craziest series I've ever seen in my life, Toronto and Columbus, where you thought you had it pegged. And the only consistent thing we saw out of this series was the lack of consistency. Every time you thought you had it kind of pegged, one of them disappointed you. But ultimately, full marks to Columbus because they concluded a series that they knew they had to play a certain way, and they got the job done last night. What were your overall thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts are we just finished the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. You know, like, come on. Half these teams shouldn't have been even in the playoffs, but they were in the fake playoffs. So I liken it to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. So now that's done, which is a great tournament, by the way. I love the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. So that's what I think of this. Then I think, well, the Leafs probably would have made the playoffs, but now they didn't make the playoffs. It's almost like the draft lottery tournament. Is there any way tonight's draft lottery that we are going to have a winner, or will there be no winners again tonight? Surely to God that can't happen again. We already went through that.
So we've got teams tonight that are arguably the 7th best regular season winners. 12th best regular season. We got teams that have gone 4 out of 5 years getting a top pick like Edmonton, now in a position to do it again. And then you got teams like the Detroit Red Wings. I don't think there's another team that deserves a first pick overall more than the Detroit Red Wings. And they bought into the system is supposed to help the weakest team in the league the most. And yet we know that's not true anymore.
Well, they've changed the lottery now 5 times officially since it was brought in 95. So it moved away from helping the bottom teams to helping the mid-range teams because they seem to win it every year. So imagine if Pittsburgh Penguins, Edmonton Oilers win, or Toronto Maple Leafs win the lottery tonight. What if one of those? This is the worst case scenario that the NHL could ever have dreamt of, to see this happen.
Isn't it only fitting that the Leafs win it because they just love messing with their fan base? And you can't tell me, and I thought this, I thought they were going to win last night. I did. And I told everybody that, the hockey gods have to be in the Leaf favor here after what we witnessed on Friday night. Have you ever in your day saw anything like that Friday night where they come back and win with 4 unanswered goals, including the one in overtime, and you just sat there and said, okay, there's just no way the hockey gods will allow Columbus to win this series after blowing that type of lead.
But as Tortorella said, they played really well for 55 minutes in that game, except for the last 5. But look, to me, and the other thing is, Keefe must have forgot that when they scored those 3 goals, they had Matthews, Marner, and Tavares on this, but they also had an extra guy because their goalie wasn't in the net. So I think they miscalculated when they put that the net worth line together last night and thought they were going to win with that. I'm sorry. It was bizarre to watch that game last night, to see how the Toronto Maple Leafs approached it. I'm sorry. They came off a monumental win, one of the great comebacks like Columbus had the game before, and then they change everything?
We had a little bit of technical difficulties. It should be fixed and resolved now. Sorry about that. Give it a nice refresh, and the boys will be good to go. Sorry about that, dudes.
Mac, did you push a button? What are you doing on my show?
I hit the red button. Does that mean something on my computer?
Don't touch the red button, for God's sakes.
All right, here's Jordan. Listen, we're bragging about Jordan last week, and then he does this to us.
Jordan's been doing a great job for us.
Wow.
Ouch. And it was his birthday on Friday.
Birthday boy. Obviously, the birthday boy was misbehaving on the weekend. He's not as sharp as he was.
Pick up right where we left off. The fact was that, unlike Winnipeg, feeling a little bit desperate to start their game 4 against Calgary, the Leafs came in with all this momentum. Why, if you're Sheldon Keefe, do you show all your cards by loading up the front line and then being in a position to put Nylander as your second line centerman? I don't mind the guys getting put together again. I just didn't like it right from the get-go. That's something to me that I want to see how the first 5 minutes goes, the 7. Give Columbus a chance to maybe bobble a puck behind the net and go down 1-0. Let's just see how sound their game is defensively. Let's just test Werenski. He's got a bad wrist. Let's just test him a little bit. But why Sheldon felt the need to load up his front line from the beginning of the game, I still question.
Look, why not stay the course? You're in a pretty good position going into this game. You've got some good, you got some good chemistry amongst your top 3 lines. Your 4th line is coming off their best game of the series. Why not just stay with your lines and load up every once in a while? Load up when you feel you need a little energy push, when it throws the other coach off. Every time this line would come over, if it was once or twice a period, it sets Tortorella back a little. He's got to readjust his bench. The assistant coaches are taking notice. Why would you do it from the opening faceoff? But not only that, Nick, it allows Tortorella to match up much easier. But then you've got no ammunition coming on your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th line. Who is going to score when you get past that first line? You had no real game breakers other than Nylander coming back. on the second and third and fourth line. I'm thinking, what are you thinking about? I couldn't believe my eyes. It made no sense to me.
Nylander with a couple of goals, and they were right in front of the blue paint, something kind of reserved for, a Zach Hyman goal. But Nylander, for me, is one of the few guys, and I think he's got a world-class shot, and I think he's got the ability to score from 20 or to 30 feet out, but he's never in that position anymore. He is a pure shooter, not a guy that needs to look for second and third chances in front of the net. And there was just no one ever, and maybe that falls into Tavares and Matthews, but it just seems like if you're considered like a poor man's Pasternak, you still got to get him the puck.
Yeah.
And this guy is not one to go get it himself. So to me, he was totally lost in this series. And as a second line centerman, Mac, you're not going to win with Nylander as your second line centerman ever.
And he hasn't played center. He's played center so limited this year and in past years. He's played so limited in that position. But not only that, Nick, because they load up the Jenner line to go head-to-head with the big boys. Then you've got Nylander having to face Dubois in a one-on-one situation. And that is not a good matchup. So I'm thinking, like, good grief, what are you thinking about here? You've got some disarray on your back end. You got Barrie, who's banged up. You got Muzzins, who's out. So it's in flux. Why do you create flux with your forward group? It just didn't make sense to me. And I'm watching it thinking, what? Anyway, what more can you say about it? And then we haven't even talked. We've talked the forward group in flux. We've talked the D a little bit in flux.
Yeah.
And then we got Freddie Anderson. We haven't even talked about.
Okay.
But anyway,
let me just conclude on the forwards here. Okay. Because there's not a person that knows anything about hockey that wouldn't agree with me. And I'm sure you, but Jason Spezza and what he was able to do on the weekend. And Jason's had a wonderful career, including 10 or 11 great years in Ottawa, which included a Stanley Cup final. But he will be best remembered for fighting Kukin in this qualifier. And you just absolutely love what he did. And, everybody talked about it. And everybody got great energy off of it. And I find it so ironic that those type of moments have been so lost on the Leafs the last few years. That was never in their wheelhouse the last few years. It wasn't about someone coming off the bench and getting a huge hit or having a huge fight and carrying that. They're not trained for Spezza to go out there and do that. That one kind of fell in their lap. And, I will always tell this to anybody. You love the regular season, but it pales in comparison to the real season, which is now. And that is all about, 82 games is all about a dress rehearsal. You go through your highs and lows, so you learn your lessons, so you can apply them when you need it most. And there's no surprises. Like, to your point, you needed to play Nylander at center for 30 or 40 games, or spot him in the center position so he's comfortable to go there in the playoffs when you need it. And he's got memory of it, being successful at it, why it was successful, and you draw upon it. To put him now in a must-win situation at center ice and make it feel like it's new to him is crazy to me. In a must-win situation. Same thing with Spezza, okay? You never built your lineup for a guy to come off the bench and get into a fight and lift your spirits up, and it doesn't work that way, Mac. It doesn't work. The regular season, you need to have your trials and your tribulations and all of that, your roller coaster, your highs and lows. So when you need it most, it's there and you can draw off your experience of it. And it just seemed to me that got out of hand for the Leafs.
And just to think about this, Nylander at center ice. The center's responsibility is down low in the defensive zone. He's the backup man when there's a defense and a forward of Columbus, a defenseman of the Leafs and a forward of Columbus battling in the corner. Do you know how tough it is to play a center ice role against the Columbus Blue Jackets when they start to cycle and work the puck off the forecheck?
Yeah.
And it was a mismatch. Then he gets caught coming on the ice on a bad change. I mean, look, it just and to stay with it for 3 periods is what caught me off.
And
so anyway, look,
he's talented, Mac. He's talented,
right?
But he's far from your hardest working centerman or forward, hardest working forward. And the second line centerman has to be that guy. He has to be a workhorse.
He has to be a both end of the rink guy that plays both ends effectively, well. And it would just, anyway, look, I'm just shaking my head still. And look, full marks to the Blue Jackets. I mean, Tortorella comes in. Merzlikins is injured. He probably would have went with Korpisalo anyway. Korpisalo, you talk about a guy that battles in the paint. We talk about goaltenders that don't give up on a play, that don't give up on the puck. And Crawford comes to mind. Carey Price obviously comes to mind. Korpisalo, this guy does not bail. If he will go second and third efforts in the crease to make a save. And
it was impressive.
Full marks to Korpisalo with the way he played. Werenski and Jones, full marks to them. But not only that, Savard, had a great series. Gavrikov had a great series. Their defense was so much better. And then you switch to the Leafs blue line. Muzzin goes down. Barrie's injured. But their blue line is not even close to being a playoff-style blue line. And, I mean, Kyle Dubas and Keefe have got to step back and Brendan and say, whoa, how do we fix this back end? How does this back end become playoff ready? Because I'm telling you, it was not even close to being a playoff back end. We saw Pittsburgh lose to Montreal because their goaltending and their defense weren't playoff caliber. Well, same thing with the Leafs. This is not a playoff caliber.
All the money's up front. All the money's up front. So
do not let them draft Lafreniere. That means they'll have $50 million in their top 5 forwards if they draft him within 2 years.
This time of year it's all about from the net out. And that's where I think the Leafs really, and Frederik Andersen, you can't win if your team doesn't score. We get that. And he was good. I thought he was good in this series, but he wasn't as good as the guy across. And you have to outplay the guy 200 feet away from you. It's that simple this time of year. Freddie was good enough to lose in this series, but it's now people look at his stats. His game clinching series numbers are horrific for the Leafs. He can't close out games, and he lets in that horrible second goal.
Every game he let in a bad goal.
And I think we've seen the last game for Frederik Andersen in a Toronto Maple Leaf uniform. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and he's certainly not going to want to go in there and play it out. They're not going to want him to go in there and play it out. They're not. He's going to want an extension. I think we see a different goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, someone whispered to me yesterday, keep an eye out for Matt Murray, for Frederik Andersen. Pittsburgh, of course, has Matt Murray. They've got issues. The Leafs probably not that comfortable for Frederik Andersen. How about that trade 1-for-1?
Well,
what do you think?
I mean, at least you got a guy that's won a couple of Stanley Cups and is capable of being a great goaltender.
Both of them
Freddie
are capable.
Andersen needs a change.
Both of them are capable. Both of them in dire need of a change.
Big time. But I still go back, we look at Columbus with 33 million in 11 forwards, and you've got 34 million in 4 forwards with the Leafs. I mean, I'm sorry. We've talked about this for a few years, the structure, the way this team is put together. Kyle has got to step back and say, okay, I've got to, everybody. Nick, I remember on Hockey Central noon, the day that Nylander was signed at $7.5 million, we commented that he will be the guy that will not end up being in the group. He's the guy that will not be there.
It might not be enough. It might not be enough. It might have to be Nylander and Kapanen. Nylander and
it may have to be
Andreas Johansson.
Because the back end is not cheap to fix. And after Morgan Rielly and Muzzin, Dermott we like. I mean, I'm thinking Hall, okay. I mean, but you need 2 to 3 defensemen on that back end to fix it. So they've got some work to do. And look, what we've got to say here, what I have to say is, we've just talked about what was wrong with the Leafs. Full marks have to go to the Columbus Blue Jackets for the way they played in a 5-game series. This team didn't quit. Well, I got to tell you, I was impressed with the way that group battled and performed, and full marks to the Blue Jackets here. Full marks.
Okay, just one more note too on the Leaf blue line. And this one had me baffled from the moment I heard it. Okay. Tyson Barrie to the Leafs with 1 year left on his contract for Nazem Kadri.
Who had, 2 years
right?
left?
And Kerfoot. And yeah, I mean, there's more pieces in that trade, but I just don't understand watching Tyson Barrie and a guy that really is playing for his next contract, that you would put so much stock into this guy for just 1 year. And then to watch him now take over the Toronto power play and move Morgan Rielly out. And, and Morgan's as loyal as the day is long. And I'll make an argument all day long that Morgan Rielly really could have easily been the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This guy bleeds it, loves being a Leaf. And yet he has to watch Tyson Barrie kind of take over that status. And I just don't know where the Leafs had so much loyalty into playing Tyson Barrie in that scenario over Morgan Rielly. That one bothered me a lot, Mac.
Look, I remember sitting there saying, people asking me, no, after Kadri got in trouble in the Bruins series and took the bad suspension, people went ballistic. Get him out of town. You can't win with him. You got to get him out of here. And I remember somebody sending me, will Kadri be traded? I said, no, Kadri won't be traded because he's a type of player you need at playoff time. He's the sort of sandpaper guy you need.
But they couldn't manage him, Mac. They were scared because they could not control him or manage him and doing something stupid on the ice. And I told people, listen, if you surrounded him more with Kyle Cliffords, a few more, he wouldn't feel the need to do it. But he looked around the room and he saw nobody that was willing to get their nose dirty. And then he said, that's it. I'm in. That was the only issue with Kadri, is not surrounding him with more grit.
And I like Kerfoot. He's a good little player.
Little players don't win this time of year.
But is he? If somebody told me that Kerfoot was a playoff type player for your third line center, and this is with all due respect to Kerfoot, he's played fine, but he's not your typical third line center on a team that's going to do some damage at playoff time. Who's the third line center that was instrumental in beating the Winnipeg Jets? Bennett. And doesn't have a great regular season, but he does have good playoffs.
And a get your nose dirty type of player, always has. And that's why Tree Living refused to trade him all season long. And he got a lot of calls on him.
For a couple of years, he has.
Okay, listen, one more thought on the Leafs, and that is you're president, you're a general manager. You've been in scenarios when you've not made the playoffs, knocked out of the playoffs, lost in a Stanley Cup final, okay? We want to hear from you, Mac, okay? We can hear from the players all day long. We don't care. We want to hear from the people that are accountable. So what is the narrative on Brendan Shanahan and Kyle Dubas this morning?
Well, first of all, you've got to have a meeting with your coach and talk about what came down here and what happened and how this debacle happened. I've got to believe there was many, many discussions about coming with this coaching style last night before this game. This wouldn't all be on Keefe.
This is a collective effort, right? This has got to be a collective effort.
You've got to believe it was. I've got to believe it was. So first of all, you go there. Then Brendan Shanahan has had history with it. when Brian Murray and I left the Detroit Red Wings, we were a little bit like the Toronto Maple Leafs. We had a ton of skill, but we didn't have enough grit to win at playoff time. Scotty Bowman came in, was with Brian and I for a year. Brian and I left, and there was a changeover happened with the Detroit Red Wings. Some of our players matured. Lapointe matured. He was our player. Draper improved, matured. That really helped. McCarty was one of our players.
Was
matured.
McCarty already there?
McCarty was there. Lapointe was there. And Draper were all there. But they all became important players. But they brought in a Maltby. They traded Steve Chiasson for Vernon to solidify their goaltending. They made some good, subtle moves to toughen up their group. They got more experience to go with Yzerman to help him with leadership in Larionov, so there was some maturing of the group, but there was also some additions. Brendan and Kyle have got to sit down. Brendan went through that. Brendan was one of the key guys they brought into Detroit. He would have seen that situation where they went from a skilled team like we had to a much more polished, veteran, playoff-ready team. So that's the next conversation that has to be held between Brendan and Kyle. And enough of all, I'm so sick of listening to this. Look, I like analytics. But I'm sorry. It had no impact on this series other than
puck possession looks pretty good for the Leafs today, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, puck possession's great. As I said, puck possession's terrific, but if you can't possess it within 15 feet of the net, what the hell's the good of it? If you have puck possession all over the ice, but you can't get it within 15 feet of the net, who gives a rat's ass about possession numbers? I don't. But anyway.
I look at Brendan Shanahan's career, and he's 600-plus goal scorer, one of the best goal scorers in the game, one of the best power forwards in the game, and could beat you every which way.
Yeah.
How is this 2020 Toronto Maple Leaf team Brendan Shanahan's? It's mind-boggling beyond belief that this is his team based on how we watched him play the game of hockey.
You've got to look at the teams that have had playoff success over the years.
Which
and
he's
why
seen.
Have they had
he's
it?
Seen it. He knows
He's lived it. He was an important part of it.
So I was always told that the word at the draft the last few years for the Leafs is, I don't care how small he is. We want the fastest, gifted, talented player that there is. Right? That's it. Don't care. Don't care. We don't want big guys. In fact, I'm not even sure that they valued really size the last few years. It was always about puck skill, holding on to the puck, analytics. I don't know what it is, but Corsi, I don't know, but that was the narrative. And Mac, they went from, and maybe Babcock's the happiest guy alive right now. Maybe he watched the game and said,
happy.
You can't blame me anymore. Okay. I'm gone. So I don't know where you guys want to go with excuses, but I'm not there anymore to take all the heat. So no Babcock, no Lou Lamoriello, and no Mark Hunter. You've got Lawrence Gilman, you got Kyle Dubas, and you got Brandon Prindham.
Great. Now, we haven't even touched on the winger that they took out in the little guy they loved in Robertson, who everybody loves as a player, and put in Johansson.
Yeah, Andreas Johansson.
Yeah. He hadn't played in 6 months? 4 months? 5
that one
months?
baffled me too. I look at Liam Foudy, London Knight, maybe one of their best players, 17 and a half minutes. If there's anybody that deserved a shitty goal, it was this guy.
Well, did he play?
Wow.
Yeah. And he was, he played junior this year,
I would have kept Robertson. Robertson was not the issue. Not the issue. That guy gave me speed.
At least he scored a goal.
He gave it tenacity.
Anyway.
All right. Listen, unfortunately,
Leafs.
inexperience caught up to Sheldon Keefe, but and you mentioned Tortorella and the credit that he deserves. He's got 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
I mean, did he not just get himself a massive extension or a pay raise somewhere else? I'm not convinced Columbus will want to pay him what he's now worth, but at $2.5 million right now, which we think that his salary is on 1 more year, how many teams would gladly double his salary on a 2 or 3 year deal for this guy? I have him having no problem getting an extension, but I don't know if Columbus is willing to pay him, Mac.
Well, and the other question is, they're going to go against Tampa Bay, and they beat Tampa Bay last year for fun. That's going to also come into play because now that they won the first series, if they lose to Tampa Bay, that'll be disappointing. But the fact that they did it without Panarin, Bobrovsky, Duchesne, Dzingel, they all bolted, they all left. None of them are playing. None of the big three are playing. They're all sitting watching, and Columbus moves on. So good on them. So it looks good.
All right. You got anything else on the lottery draft today, or did you exhaust that already?
I just want somebody to win it. I just want there to be a winner tonight. Like, can we not hopefully pray that at the end of this show, somebody has won it? Surely they can't screw that up. But I'm telling you, Pittsburgh, I sat at a draft lottery similar to this one when Pittsburgh won it to get Sidney Crosby. I also puked at that one. I puked at the Taves draft. Then I puked at this one too. But anyway, Toronto, Pittsburgh.
Okay. Yeah.
Surely, can Minnesota win it? Can Minnesota win it?
They need him too. They need a superstar there. Desperately, they need a superstar. Florida, Barkov could desperately use him in the worst way.
By the way, you were right on Dale Talon. I see that he's left.
Hey,
you announced that a week ago.
Did we not say that about a week ago? Did I tell you Dale's done? Done. He had grill marks on his ass like a Burger King Whopper. That's how done he was.
People have to start to tune into Real Kyper at noon so that they get the stuff firsthand instead of waiting like a few days to get it off, from the other local medias, especially since Bob McKenzie's retiring.
Congratulations,
we'll be the go-to
Bob.
place.
But Bob is fake retiring. You know that. He's going to do all the major shows. Yeah. He's going to do World Juniors. Okay. He's going to do Leaf games too. This is where Bob's super smart because we lived at Mac on the other side of Sportsnet when we didn't have the national package. Okay. Those poor guys like Jeff O'Neill and Dave Poulin and, others, James Duthie. When you don't have the national package and you don't have the games, you still got to go to work and do hits and into the news show that really nobody's watching. Bob's smart. He's like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not coming into shows that nobody's watching every night in the playoffs for 2 months. That's where Bob's super smart. He's going, let those guys do that. I'm out of here.
Oh,
but Bob's going to continue. And he's and I said this on my tweet that Bob McKenzie was a guy that set the bar for all of us. Bob was the only newsbreaker that was consistently out there until we kind of challenged him a little bit. And I tried to my best. But, at the end of the day, there was only one godfather of breaking news in the National Hockey League, and it was Bob McKenzie. So from Real Kyper at noon, Bob, wish you all the best in your semi-retirement, fake retirement. What do you call it? Fake GM president now?
Yeah, he's same thing. Here's the other thing. Bob would phone you looking for a scoop when he would hear something. And you almost felt bad not to give him the scoop. And then you came along and you were a little bit the same way.
Well, I tell you,
start talking to him.
Why are you giving it to Bob all the time? What TSN, Bob? How about a little love at Sportsnet?
If I didn't give it to Bob or you, I'd feel bad. So, and I'll tell you another reason he's leaving or not going to work all those little rinky-dink shows is because he's tired of taking orders from Steve Dryden, too. I guarantee you that. I worked 2 shows with Steve Dryden.
at the Olympics.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, that's another reason. So, Steve, you can't be in Bob's Grill anymore. Sorry, so you're gonna have to grab somebody else.
I did 3 games a day. I did 3 games a day for 21 days with Steve Dryden and his whiteboard. So every show he'd come in and it would start on this whiteboard. And what's that old saying? Misery loves company.
Yeah.
So his whiteboard drove us nuts, but we loved being miserable all together over there.
You know, he does. Steve is very thorough and very organized, but Bob won't miss him.
Well,
I know
we
that.
wish you all the best. Whatever you want to do, Bob. Whenever you want to show up is fine with us. So good on you. Now, you touched on it a little bit in terms of Carolina and their challenges coming up here against Tampa Bay. I am hearing that Stamkos had a setback with his injury, and it's not looking good. We also watched Hedman twist an ankle, Mac, possibly high ankle sprain.
That's
the
what
look on his face
Yeah.
in sheer disgust means he won't be ready to start this. This is a huge advantage for Tortorella's group.
Time. It is. And I mean, you know, the goaltending on Tampa has got to be better than Korpisalo. We know it wasn't last year. Hedman is just Hedman and Stamkos are devastating losses for them right now. And you know what? We talked last week, the coach with maybe the most pressure on him in this playoff is, now that Keefe's out, is John Cooper. And John Cooper, this is a big series for this Tampa Bay Lightning team, because you look at where they are cap-wise, look at them moving forward, look at the group aging. This is a big, big playoff for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And right now, I have a hard time saying that Tampa Bay is going to beat Columbus right now. I have a hard time saying that.
Me too. And, you know, I was joking around on Twitter. I said, is this the play for the rest of the night against Columbus, where they play Red Rover, we call now Tampa Bay over. And that's it in a nutshell. And when you got big, heavy men like Savard, Jones, Werenski, I'm sorry, but like I really knew not a whole heck of a lot about Zach Werenski. And at times I think he can have a brain cramp like all the rest of us. But this guy's play went to another level, and he was a 20-goal scorer this season. And you're sitting there going, okay, you know, maybe it's one of those years where everything goes right and it's a one-off. But I'm looking at Werenski and what he did to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the only reason we went to Game 5, Mac, is because that guy left with 10 minutes to go in Game 4. If he sticks around for Game 4, there is no come from behind win for the Leafs. There's no overtime and there's no Game 5. Right. That's how good Werenski was.
Yeah. Yeah, he was that good. And I mean, look, and they never dropped him and Jones. I mean, they were so good, but you hit it. Savard and Gavranoff, they were exceptional as well. I mean, you know, they dressed 7D last night just to be safe, because they were concerned about, obviously, Werenski, and didn't need him. But look, this is a tough series to call, no doubt about it.
And the other concerning thing with Columbus is they've had so many chances to put the Leafs away, no finishers. Okay? No finishers. They cannot close out a play. Maybe that changes. You know, does Foligno get hot here? Does Foodie get some confidence? Atkinson was pretty good. I think he was pretty good. But there's a lot of guys, Texier, like grade A chances off of Anderson's head. It's like, buddy, 6 inches on either post. Look for it. Okay. But you can't hit a guy right in the head when you got a grade A opportunity here. They're going to have to bury those chances against Tampa Bay.
They have to go back to the Mark Hunter scoring tip that Mark Hunter told me when he was in St. Louis. I was coaching and he was playing, and I said, you know, you're pretty good picking corners. He said, Doug, I aim for the center of the net. And sometimes when you aim at the center, they go to the corners, you know?
That's
don't be too fine on the shot. Get it on the net first and see what happens.
Was that not Mike Bossy? Mike Bossy always said that he shot for the middle of the net too.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
He was really good. So am I sensing a Columbus win in this series out of you?
I'm picking Tampa Bay.
You just sat here for 10 minutes telling me that Columbus had a great opportunity here, and you would be worried if you're Boston.
I am worried about Tampa, but can they lose 2 years in a row when they're overwhelming favorites? They're coming off a good season, pressure on the organization, pressure on the coaches. Hedman has got to play somehow, some way.
Could the Leafs
I
lose?
am going to reserve my.
You're going to wait?
I want to know Hedman for sure.
I'll give you another day.
If Hedman's out, I'm going Columbus.
Okay. All right. I'll give you some more time. I'll buy you some time now.
Yeah.
You loved Boston. We knew that because a week and a half ago, in our pregame shows, our predictions, you had Boston all the way. Okay. Now you're starting to see a different team. Now, earlier I said, are they playing possum here? Or are we just seeing a team that can't start up again after 4.5 months off? Are these experienced older legs that are having trouble starting up? Or are we going to see the real Boston Bruins here?
They're going against a team that's a pretty dynamic team right now with the big line up front. I mean, maybe one of the best lines in the playoffs thus far with Aho, Svechnikov and Teravainen. That's an unbelievable line, but and a really good blue line. I don't know what Hamilton's status is. I mean, Hamilton, is he getting close?
Live streaming, buddy. I got a little bit of an update here.
That's why I went there. I knew you would.
Hamilton is, as of now, expected to be ready. So that's huge. Well, we just spoke moments ago about Hedman. The feeling today was he was going to skate again today, and if everything went according to plan, Hamilton will be ready for Game 1 for Carolina. That to me is huge news.
So I'm staying the same.
So I mean, I don't know what blitzbet.eu has Carolina at, but knowing Hamilton coming in, you might want to take a look at those odds one last time before maybe people find that out.
But here's the key. To me, the reason I picked the New York Rangers to beat Carolina was only one reason. The kid in goal for the Rangers who never seemed to play in the series. And also Mrazek in goal for Carolina.
You talking Shesterkin?
Shesterkin.
There you go.
Shesterkin didn't play till it was too late, and Mrazek was okay. Can Mrazek dominate Tuukka Rask or Halak? I've got to say the Bruins win this series based on the goaltending. But that's what I did last time.
If we can recall to the Boston Bruins on their way to the Stanley Cup final last season against St. Louis, the 4-game sweep in the conference final against the very same Carolina Hurricanes. And that was not your typical 4-game sweep. Okay. Carolina, if you can remember, Mac, they had a ton of chances. And from Boston closing out Columbus to Carolina, Tuukka Rask was out of his mind. The best hockey I've ever seen out of Tuukka Rask was in that window of Columbus to Carolina, and he was phenomenal. The only way your Boston Bruins come out of this against Carolina is if he matches that type of goaltending.
And we've got Krug, who's becoming an unrestricted free agent. Where's his head? We've got my biggest problem with the Bruins is they still haven't found a number 2 second line winger to play with DeBrusk and Krejci. Cass is there from Anaheim. He's back, but they still don't have the right guy to play in that number 2 hole on the wing with those two guys, DeBrusk and Krejci. I love their third line. The second line bothers me, and who doesn't love their first line with Patrice Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak? But you know what? I'm going with the Bruins. I am. I mean,
you can't bail.
I was 3-5 in the first round. That's damn well embarrassing. I've got to at least be 500 in the second round.
At least
500.
Is your contract with Real Kyper at noon and linemovement.com, is that guaranteed? I got to check with my lawyer.
I hope it isn't. No, I think, who knows? Nothing's guaranteed anymore, you know?
Can I ask you also that whatever you want to base the round robin on, who is now in the final 16 now that we've eliminated the 8? Who is truly the best team going into the 16? I know my answer. I picked them to win the Stanley Cup.
I still love Colorado. Who did you pick to win the Cup?
Philadelphia Flyers.
Well, I'm picking them to beat Montreal. But I
got Michael here saying Colorado as well.
Yeah, I've got Colorado, and I mean, I think they're going to be tough. Could it be? I've got a Colorado-Boston final.
You didn't see Flyers take their foot off the pedal here.
No, I know. They've been good.
From what, Christmas on? I think in their last 24 games, Matt, or last 25, they're 24-4-1. 24-1 is their record.
I'll tell you what,
they're unbelievable right now.
They have got, what they've got going for them right now. First of all, they got an experienced staff coaching the team for one thing. Secondly, they finally have a goaltender. Carter Hart and Elliott look like they have a chance. You know, Carter Hart can be a difference maker. But where I see them, besides the balance they have up front, 3 good lines, 4 solid lines. You look at their back end, you got Provorov and Niskanen in your first pair, and the second pair has come out of nowhere. Sanheim and Philip Myers, their shutdown pair. Big guys, Myers 6'5" right-hand shot, second-year NHLer. Sanheim, I mean, that is a hell of a shutdown pair. And then you got a good power play. I like the Flyers too. I do. I mean, they will beat Montreal. Surely to God, they'll help me get to 500 in the second round.
Let's hope so. Nick Kypreos here, Real Kyper at noon. Doug Maclean, my co-host. We hope you've been enjoying the show so far. If you do, smash that like button for Mac. Tell him how good he is. Comments. We would love hearing your comments. We might not agree with them all, but send them in anyways. And, we'll even get Doug to start answering some of them. That would be really fun here. So just a few more minutes just to wrap up the Flyers, Mac. Carter Hart, I think, has a real chance to be one of the best goalies in Flyer history. Can he do what Jordan Binnington did as early as this year and take it all the way and show ice in his veins like Binnington did? Still, the odds are against him, but I would not rule him out here. The Flyers forever, since Bernie Parent, has been cursed with one bad goalie after another. But it really seems like they got it right with this kid.
How does Ron Hextall feel right now? A guy that really put this team together, who drafted Carter Hart in the first round, who brought in the bulk of these players. This must be driving him around. Although knowing Hexy, he would be happy for them. But I'll tell you what, they are a good blend of youth, veterans, size, skill, goaltending. You're and experience on the bench.
Okay, listen, we got all week to continue to kind of set things up, and also as early as what, Tuesday, we get into it, Mac. Vegas and Chicago, Avs and Phoenix, Dallas and Calgary, and St. Louis in Vancouver. We also saw officially the Florida Panthers let Dale Talon go. If you followed Real Kipper at noon, you would have saw that about a week ago. Nothing left on his contract. No sign of him getting a new one. The writing was on the wall a long time ago for Dale Talon. So we know, Mac, two general managing spots open right now. We just mentioned Florida. We know Arizona. Despite the Chicago Blackhawks beating the Edmonton Oilers, is Stan Bowman's job safe there?
I got to believe, it's funny. I talked to somebody last night and they said, Doug, don't be surprised if Chicago give Vegas everything they can handle with the way they're playing. I'm looking at Duncan Keith, 27 minutes he's averaged or something, and the ice time Kane and Taves. I've got to believe Stan is okay with this win. With this series win, I've got to believe. But I know the rumbling is out there. I know that. But we'll see what happens. The other name is David Poyle's name. What happens? He's been there for 20 plus years as GM. Is there a chance he would just move up and become president?
If he's smart, he runs right now. I don't think David Poyle wants to be around as in the general manager's chair the next 2 years in Nashville, because I don't. It's not a rosy picture.
But David would like to. I could see David moving up into one of those fake president, fake GM type things. If maybe I could. I mean, look, the guy's been a lifer in the NHL. He's had an amazing career, a Hall of Fame career. I could see him moving up. But I'll tell you what, David has made some of the biggest trades in the NHL in the last 10 years. And for him to see Weber playing the way he's playing, to see obviously Jones playing the way he's playing, and to see Subban doing so well on his podcast, it would be hard on the head.
So far, Mac, I started the top of the show talking about what a remarkable job, basically. And we've talked about this actually earlier, that it's been a phenomenal story so far in the National Hockey League in terms of what they were able to do. But we're only 10 days in, and it feels like we've been around a lot longer in this thing. And, you just wonder how the players, especially the ones that advance and move on, still handle this whole thing about not being able to move anywhere. Now, someone told me yesterday that there might have been a little bit of an incident between Nashville and Arizona at the Sutton Hotel bar. Now, can you imagine now, and I've never experienced this in my life, where you're coming off a high of beating a team out in the playoffs, and then you completely go to the same place to have drinks with the team that you just knocked out. I can imagine there might be a few things said at some point between the two teams.
And here's what happens. That happened to me one time. I was in Newfoundland and I was with a team, and we got into it in the bar. And the guy said to me, when he was throwing me out of the bar, he said, "You got 6 months for this." And I said, "Hey, buddy, make it 6 years because I'm never coming back." He said, "You got 6 years." So they can't even get barred because they've got to stay in the bubble. I was lucky.
I got to think right now, it's got to be a huge challenge. And you cannot tell me for 1 second that it just doesn't carry on in some way on the ice. And I got to think about a team like Columbus, a team like Chicago, Montreal Canadiens, when nobody has picked you and it's the us versus the world mentality, and we go into an environment of a quiet building. I can't think of a better scenario for teams that that have no shot to feel like it's a good energy. No energy is a good energy for us.
It's like somebody wrote recently, and I think it might have been our good friend Howard, Howard Berger, who said, it's really a reality show what's going on. This is a reality show playoff.
Howard might not be too far off.
He
right?
might not be too far off. That's right.
Well, listen, I've said this all along. I'll take NHL reality over sitting on my couch watching CNN and being depressed every day. I'll take this all day long.
But what really pisses me off is because I'm in PEI, I get punished that the late game starts at 11:45.
I don't want to hear
that's
it.
That's a joke.
I don't want to hear it. Okay? I don't want to hear it. Wah, wah, wah. There's your violin. Okay? Stay up, drink coffee, do whatever it takes. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, I also want you sticking around because at 1:15 Eastern, it's the Octagon Outlook with James Lynch. You're an MMA guy, aren't you? You love the punch-ups. You love the blood. Okay? Stick around. Live stream show. Big heavyweight fight coming up here real soon. And James is going to do a great job covering it for us. So stick around. Live stream, 1:15 Eastern with James Lynch, formerly of The Score. We all know him through The Score. He's going to do a great job on the Octagon Outlook. Okay, stick around, Mac.
Wait.
Try to look a little excited for you know what's sake. All right? You ready for the playoffs, the second round?
Or
is it the first round? Or is it the first? Is it the second fake first?
I'm confused. This is the real playoffs. Now we're into the 16. This is the fun part of it. Forget this little play-in thing. Now we're into the real stuff, and it's going to be real fun to watch. We're going to see some great hockey.
Are you telling everybody in PEI to subscribe to Real Kyper at noon? Have you?
I've mentioned it.
How about the
everybody says, how are you enjoying retirement? I say, well, I'm not retired anymore. I have a job now. And then I have to go into this big explanation. So anyway.
And we want the rating and reviews on the Apple podcast as well. Okay.
Right.
So hit it, smash it, throw it in the lake, do whatever you want with it.
Want it hit.
Okay, Mac, great job today. You teed up everything from the Leaf issues right to Boston. Still believing in Boston. We'll take it for face value. I mean, you're not bailing. You're not a bailer, are you? You'll go down with the ship.
Big time.
What's planned for the rest of the day? Condos, golf?
Yeah, actually, hamptonspei.com. Check out that website. I've got to meet a guy there at 5:00 about he's looking at a lot. So I got a 5:00 meeting.
But that's really 6:00. So you might be tired by then.
I got a little tip. My cottage is on the Atlantic, the Gulf of St. Lawrence, Northumberland Strait. The water temperature yesterday was 84 degrees in the water. Wow. Temperature 84 degrees. Is that unbelievable?
The only thing missing now is a little Buddha cocktail. Soon be coming to the Maritimes, I hope.
I got to get one of those.
All right, we're going to let you go. We're going to let you go. Enjoy the rest of the day. Great job today here on the Real Kyper at Noon Show. And for all of you, thanks for joining. Once again, give us your comments. We want to hear you. We want to hear what you think about the show. We are live streaming now, man. We are daily. You don't need to go anywhere else to get your hockey fix here, folks. It's Real Kyper at Noon. Nick Kypreos, Doug Maclean, for Jordan, for Michael Bannock Jr. here helping me out. To all of you, thanks for joining, and we'll see you right here.